Howdy everybody, it's Gary Lowe here. I thought I would go back to my Texas roots with that greeting, but seriously, I would like to talk to you guys about something that I'm sure everybody has heard about, but not very many people have implemented, the Roth IRA. What the heck is a Roth? What does a Roth stand for? These were my very first two questions when I first got interested in personal finance. Fun fact, Roth is a name, not an acronym. In the grand scheme of things, there are 3 to 4-ish types of investment accounts. The Roth IRA, traditional IRA, both sort of go hand in hand. They're together even though they have slightly different rules. The 401k are for for-profit organizations, the 403b is for non-profit organizations, and the 457 for government organizations all have slightly different rules. But the general rule, a regular 401k, 403b, 457, all use pre-tax money to invest and they'll tax you on it later. 401ks for the most part have consumer protections to give you good choice on investments. The 403bs do not have consumer protections. As I've witnessed at my school, you have these vulture financial advisors ready to pounce on your hard-earned money and sell you stuff like annuities and whole life insurance. 457s are for government people, and interestingly enough, I think they let you withdraw your money before the age of 59 and a half. I'm not quite sure of the rules on that one, but I'm sure you can Google that. And finally, the taxable brokerage. An account that anybody can open and typically has no restrictions. This one is taxed the most. On this video though, we'll be focusing on the Roth IRA retirement account. A Roth is one of those financial things you keep on hearing from these really bougie people. Cogsworth, what is your Roth portfolio doing today? And then you hear that, you think it's out of your reach, but I'm here to tell you, if you earn money, you are eligible to take advantage of a Roth IRA. So if you made $10,000 this year, you can deposit up to $6,000. However, if you only made $4,000, you can only deposit up to $4,000 into your Roth. So it all depends on how much you make, but the limit is max $6,000. Once you save an emergency fund with 3 to 6 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account, I definitely recommend you open a Roth. That way you can start earning that yummy, amazing tax-free growth. A Roth is one of the best retirement vehicles out there. Arguably a better tax savings than those other investment vehicles. True, you technically can't touch the Roth until you're 59 and a half. Well, you can, but there will be penalties, and there's other exceptions like house buying, etc., etc., etc. But I'll personally be keeping my Roth IRA in there for as long as I can so I can get that sweet, sweet compound interest. So what makes a Roth so good? That's a great question. Short story, you're putting money into a Roth account with money that's already been taxed, and any growth on that money is tax-free. Tax-free growth, people. Tax-free growth is a gift from the tax gods. Essentially, the money you have in your checking account, that money has already been taxed by the government. So you can use that money and deposit it into a Roth account. Side note, there are many companies out there that are eligible to open Roth IRA accounts. I personally use Vanguard, my wife uses Fidelity. I know those systems pretty well. Charles Schwab, E-Trade, TD Ameritrade, etc., etc., etc. All those are great companies also. Just do your own research and figure out which brokerage is best for you. So as mentioned before, there are some restrictions to a Roth IRA. Since this money is growing tax-free, the government obviously knows this is a great tax shelter. So as I mentioned before, they limit you to only investing $6,000 per year or $7,000 if you're 50 or older. The man doesn't want you parking all your money in there or they won't get a piece of that tax-free growth. So you're stuck with only putting $6,000 per year. Now it's up to you how you want to deposit this money. You can put this in one big lump sum or spread it out evenly across the year or pay a little every quarter or pay a little at the beginning or lots at the end. I don't care. The point is, your goal is to try and get $6,000 in this account before tax day the following year. And if you'd like to know, studies show that a lump sum at the beginning of the year is actually more effective and more likely to grow than splitting up into equal payments every month, otherwise known as dollar cost averaging. We'll talk about dollar cost averaging in another video. Honestly though, doesn't matter, get that $6,000 in a Roth account any way that you can. So now that you started putting money into your Roth account, you need that money to start working for you. A Roth account is just an account type, meaning your money has the potential to grow tax-free. You now have to invest that money into something for it to start growing. When you first deposit money into a Roth account, your brokerage would park your money in something called a money market account. This is essentially the equivalent of putting money under your mattress, but online. A money market account barely generates any interest, so you'll have to start investing in something before you can generate some real money. Now here's where your own personal risk plays into the growth of your investments. In general, more risk equals potential for higher gains and higher losses. Less risk, potential for higher gains, but not as much as the high riskier stuff, but also potential for losses. Let me try to diagram this for you. The middle number is 0. The key thing here to notice here is variability. The higher risk investment stocks and lower risk bonds essentially mimic each other in terms of gains and losses. The main difference is when you lose in stocks, you lose big. When you lose in bonds, you don't lose as big. On the other side of the coin, when you win in stocks, you win pretty big. When you win in bonds, you don't win as big. I know what you're thinking, because I first thought this when I first started investing. I'm not a risk taker. I'll invest in the safe stuff. My money is growing, so I'm happy. Here's a general rule of thumb that I personally subscribe to. You definitely don't have to subscribe to this. It's just something I personally have adopted from my personal experiences. When you're young, invest in risky stuff, stocks. When you're closer to retirement, invest in the safer stuff, bonds. Right now for me, I'm relatively young at 37. I'm still growing strong, investing at 100% stocks. The closer and closer I get to retirement, I'll change my ratio of stocks versus bonds. As I get closer to retirement, I don't like those huge variability swings of gains and losses. I want a smaller variability so I can more accurately predict my retirement years. So you got your money in a Roth. You've assessed your own personal risk level. Now you're ready to invest. But invest in what? I like to refer to the totem pole of risk that's generally accepted by the personal finance community. You got your no risk stuff, that's cash under the mattress, checking accounts, savings accounts, CDs, money market accounts, relatively no risk at all. Low risk, you got your bonds and your fixed interest securities. Medium risk, you have your mutual funds, ETFs, index funds. These funds can be tailored to your own personal risk. And then you got your high risk, single stocks, shares, you got your penny stocks, blue chip stocks, value stocks, income stocks, etc., etc., etc. And then your high risk stuff. You have your derivatives, options, puts, all that stuff. Now there's way too much information here to decipher your own level of personal risk. So this is where you need to do your own research on what you feel matches your level of risk. I'll tell you about my own experiences. As I was doing my own studying, diversification kept on coming up in all my readings. Heck, my boy Warren Buffett even said for most people, a low-cost index fund that tracks the total market or S&P 500 is a great investment vehicle. He personally has a different investing philosophy, but he's talking about the general investing public. If you don't know what a low-cost index fund is, a very simplified version is it's a managed fund where you essentially buy fractional shares of all the stocks in the market or something very, very close to it. This is practically the epitome of diversification. All the businesses in the US can't fail at once, right? Anyways, over 100 plus years of data show all these stocks as a whole will grow on average 6 to 7% annually. That doesn't mean every year will have exactly 6 to 7% growth. Some years, 20% growth. Other years, 30% not growth. And then next year after that, it'll grow 19%. But on average, over a long period of time, the total stock market index will have around 6 to 7% growth. The majority of my money is in low-cost index funds because my risk tolerance lets me do it. I also then wanted to dabble in a little more risky stuff. I thought, hey, let's try and pick the winners in the stock market. The low-cost index fund is made up of winners and losers, all making the average grow 6 to 7%, right? So if I do my research, I can pick a company where their stock is outperforming the running average of the market. So I did. And even though the stock that I picked is definitely doing amazing and outperforming the market as a whole, my personal risk tolerance is holding me back from putting all of my money in there because stories like Enron or General Electric or Beanie Babies that were all worth a lot, and I'm sure there were people who had their whole retirement in some of these funds, are practically worth nothing today. Or in 2008 when a bunch of companies failed and their worth went to essentially nothing. These stocks are worth nothing. And that freaks me out. So my own personal risk tolerance prevents me from fully investing in one single company. Did index funds take a hit? It sure did, but the low-cost index funds definitely wasn't worth zero. I fully believe every single business in the US can't fail at once, and 100 plus years of data backs up my hypothesis. I must stress, past performance is no guarantee of future results, but I feel good about my pick and my risk tolerance lets me do it. So these are my experiences. Find your own personal risk tolerance. If index funds are too risky, go buy some bonds. If you don't trust bonds, put your money in a savings account. If you don't trust the banks, under your mattress is relatively safe also. If you're feeling mighty risky, invest in some calls and puts. Comment down below and let me know what your personal risk level is when investing in a Roth. If you thought this video had some good ideas and showed you a Roth is something definitely obtainable, give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell so you know when I upload a new video. I'll see y'all next time.